This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-host, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett, coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you again today.
We have a very great show for you today. It is Consciousness and Lightness in Being. We're going to be talking about the energetic difference between form and consciousness. So the energy of form, bodies, physicality, is dense, heavy emotions, black and white thinking, life and death attitudes. The quality of consciousness is lighter. It's compassion and amusement. It's expansive and broader perspectives. So stay tuned and learn how to integrate both to gain a sense of equilibrium.
And here's an invitation to go deeper with us, to connect with us beyond the show. You can join us at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you're going to find out all about our past podcasts, or I guess that they are the past because they are podcasts. Sorry about that. And of all these recordings we have of our shows, you'll also find both Joan and my blog. She writes on Fridays, I write on Monday, and we comment about what we're noticing in our groups and about life in general. And there's always some excellent thought there for all of us to have. And we both cover our meetups. You'll see Joan's all over the Puget Sound, and she'll give you all those details. I see people here in my home in Portland, Oregon, and we just have marvelous times. And you're going to find out about our sessions. We all do personal work with individuals. So take it away, Joan. Give us all those wonderful Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, details.
Sure. Well, our show is on Facebook. You can go there and look up Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and you can join the group and join the fun. Janet is on Facebook as Janet Barrett, and I'm on Facebook as Joan Newcomb. So you can join us all there, and a wonderful place for us to interact. If you like Twitter, we're on Twitter. The show handle is at Joan and Janet. Mine is at Joan Newcomb. And Janet is Janet Beyond. And we are also on YouTube, and you can binge listen to the show on YouTube. You can just put it on and lie down and listen and bliss out to it. It is Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet on YouTube. And then my show is on YouTube. I do a weekly YouTube broadcast, and it is also listed on our website. So every week you can find it on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I want to let you know what is coming up for my meetup groups, since I hold them around the Puget Sound in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, and University Place. And the one that is coming up this next weekend, let me see, though the weekend after that, I have a break. So the weekend after that is University Place. It's on Sunday, October 22nd from 3 to 5 p.m. And it's Conscious Conversations at the University Place Library. That's on Bridgeport Way, and it's right next to Whole Foods. We have a wonderful time in our conversations. We talk about what is going on with us from the greater perspective of consciousness. It's very validating to see that we are having similar yet different experiences. And then I usually teach a little technique for you to take home and transform your life. And after that, the end of the month, on the 29th of October, I am up in Redmond, and I am teaching a consciousness masterclass, and it is a way to go deeper than just our conversations. And I'm holding that in a meeting room in the back of the Family Pancake House, and so it's $10, and you can have pancakes and or whatever they serve in the afternoon there, maybe crepes, savory crepes you can have, and learn deeper techniques than just what you would get at coming to one of my library meetups.
Well, and I think it's important for people to realize when we suggest you listen to us on YouTube or through the podcast that what we're presenting there is live. Now, it may be later, but in our state of awareness that we're holding, there is no time, space, or place in consciousness. So what we discuss, what you feel, is an active state of potential, so that whatever you bring to it when you listen, whenever you listen, you'll get access to that. You are in that place with us. So it's always current. It's never,
right.
Something they did before. So, and then you've got another opening, you said, for your 12 weeks of transformation.
Yeah, I do. And I will touch base on what you just said, because that we are always in the now. And as consciousness, we're always in the now. And I think often when people listen to podcasts, unless they get a reminder that it's at a different time, they're in the now space with us. But I can imagine that when I pop in with my announcements of things that are coming up, that it kind of discharged the nowness of it. I just encourage folks that whenever you're listening to this, one thing I want to validate that you are creating this experience right now with us, because it is always now. And if you're in the Puget Sound area, to go to the meetup page on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, to see what the current time is for what we're doing. Now, for folks who are around the world, I coach people all over the world through Zoom and through Skype and by phone. And I do have an opening for a private client right now that is a 12 weeks to transformation program. So I hold space for you for 12 weeks to completely transform your life and become proficient in a sense of confidence and mastery in how to navigate your life as consciousness. That is available at my website, joan-newcomb.com. And I want folks who are attracted to maybe that idea but don't feel ready to step into a private coaching program to know that I am offering, and I have another offer coming up that I am doing some last minute tweaks and cooking in the books here, or whatever. That's a weird sentence to say. I am creating a brand new offering that is accessible for you. And just stay tuned to these broadcasts, because I'll be revealing more as the weeks go on. So stay tuned to all that.
I think one other insight that showed up while we're doing our announcements here is that it's like the open-ended questions is what this show is about. It's inviting potential. So whatever we're talking about, well, what if that could be different within me? What if? And in putting it in that context, it allows it to keep playing out, right? We're so attached to change right in the moment, and it does, and then it keeps happening. And that's what we want to invite everybody into feeling and being aware of, is that ask it as an open-ended question, and possibilities and potential are alive and active. So that's about all that. And we're talking about the lightness in being, Joan. And we had a discussion going about, because we were familiar with the term the lightness of being.
Of being, right.
And we wanted to do it this way. What were your thoughts on that you were noticing?
Well, what I was noticing in the lightness in being is it gives you permission to experience it within yourself,
right? And
to realize that this is not only an experience of, some people call it ascension, but it is an experience of embodiment. So what from my perspective, what is really going on is that you are greater consciousness coming more into form. And therefore, accessing it within your body space is a very powerful way to notice it. I will also say another thing about it is that, you know, your body is your vehicle in this reality, and it's meant to be experienced. We often lose track of that by wanting to go out there and be more spiritual by going out there, and kind of miss the point of being here then. The deliciousness of being in physical form, to really enjoy all that the physical realm has to offer. We have about a minute before we go to break, Janet.
Yeah, I think, it's the lightness in being. Being has no form, has form. You know, I think it holds all that. And we're talking about the interaction between the two, and how sometimes we're focused from one perspective as opposed to another perspective. And it's inviting that awareness back that we're both. We're all. We're none. We're neither. We just are. And whatever shape, form, awareness that we're holding that in is legitimate in that moment. And then it might be different in another moment. And I think that flexibility, that rhythm, the fluidness of holding that positioning as essence has brought me so much more lightness of awareness, lightness of being, right? And it's quite a different place. It's such a different invitation about how I experience information and myself in relationship to it. So it's a neat place to be, I think. Doesn't mean it's not without its challenges, and you go back and forth, but
well, that's what we're going to be talking about today, and we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we will be talking about consciousness and lightness in being when we come back after these messages.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb, coming to you along here with Janet Barrett, and we are talking about consciousness and lightness in being.
We be light.
We be light. We are light beings. We are definitely light beings, though some of our bodies are kind of dense. So
yeah, and that doesn't mean we mean that anything in any way flippant or not respectful or anything. It is just in the dynamics of appreciating, understanding that we create our reality through our thoughts, and we are subject to what those thoughts are, and we manifest out of those thoughts. And so often our thoughts are contradictory and all illusion anyway. And it's like, okay, that light we respect from the scientific place of there are lights of photons, there are biophotons that have a little mass, and it's all frequency resonances and vibrations, and then information, all the stories and the patterns that we inhabit. And you can move through that. You can navigate yourself through this medium of potential, that infinite sea. And that's where the essence of us is. And so how to connect to that in a way that takes this human form experience and brings it to a whole nother place for me. How about for you?
Yeah, what I was noticing in how you said it is there is a level of creating your reality through your thoughts. I see it as we experience our reality through our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And what I am noticing for myself is that there is a realm beyond thought, which is where reality actually gets created. Mm-hmm. But when we're trying to do the law of attraction, then we're, doing positive affirmations. That's where we are in the realm of thought, and that's where you are trying to consciously manifest your reality. And what I notice is when you're doing things like affirmations and vision boards and doing it through the thought realm, it's like using a 3D printer, but there's a glitch in the programming. Most of the time there's a glitch in the programming, and so there's a flaw with whatever gets created. And when you shift beyond, when you go beyond that, you're able to manifest results that are beyond your imagination. And that is what I feel that we're all moving towards. That's where reality is unfolding, is that immense lightness in being is creating a tremendous shift.
I think sometimes our organization and of how we experience things gets in our way, and we create separateness. We say body, mind, spirit. And for me anymore, what if it was all one? What if it didn't matter? What if it was just information being experienced? And then you can start to see where, let me notice it that way, and let me put it in that context. And it's kind of like you take the hardness out of being in the form. You take the separateness out of being. And that to me is the lightness in being, is that you're freeing yourself up from or being congruent into the way we have set it up, that I have my thoughts, I have my spirit, I have my soul, I have this, I have that. It's all consciousness in the delightful spectrum of expansiveness. Some material is inanimate. Some things are animate. Life is what life is. And life is made up of inanimate things. So you're always going to be dealing with information in different ways. And as we lose the hardness, the righteousness, the wrongness, these limits, we're inviting a whole new conversation. We're finding a place of common so that we can enjoy the individuality of the collective, right? That we can enjoy what we as consciousness have created. And I think that's also about the lightness in being.
It's interesting because you were talking about inanimate objects, but I was hearing it as adamant.
Adamant. Yeah. Okay.
Adamant as opposed to animate. And I had to write it down. It's like, wait, how do you pronounce it? How do you animate and adamant? And here's the thing that I'm noticing. And granted, my original training was very black and white. There was a lot of distortion through whatever the spiritual truth was in there. And it was, you are spirit and you have a body. And where my perspective shifted was that it's more of a spectrum and it's consciousness focusing into density, and that there's more of a spectrum there. But what I am noticing in my current growth space as I, whatever is reorganizing within me, I am finding a different relationship with my body. And I've started doing these gentle yoga classes at the community center with these seniors, and I tell you, that's just about it's actually too hard for me. It's too hard for me. But it's creating a communication with my body that is reminding me somewhat of my original definition, and that my body contains within it all these different experiences and all the different personality levels of inner kids. And so sometimes my body is pretty adamant about its needs and wants. And if you think how when we were babies, we communicated with a very similar, like we cried when we were hungry, we cried when we were tired, we cried when we were wet. So the body cries out, and it's a request for us as consciousness to respond. So when I shift my awareness to being in my physical form, and I use some of my consciousness techniques to essentially like one point into my body, there is an instantaneous shift there. And it's not denying the body, leaving the body behind. But there's a release of pain, and I think it's embodying in form to a fuller degree than what was possible before. And that's really, what physical bodies want, is for us to be there for them.
Well, I think as much as there's a physical body, that comes with a mind. Right? The mind forms about that physical body. And it is registering, when you think about it in a thought place, that a thought often is adamant. It is persistent. It is habituated. It is like a rock. And what does it take to change it? You can go into a process about it, or what you're describing is where you just change the reality that you've been holding that information in. And that too is that flexibility, the fluidity, the expansiveness, the light in action, I think, and feel from not, and my thinking is not coming from my mind as much as it is coming from this state of awareness. We're all at different places, and we don't mean to offer anything other than the appreciation of what life can be. And we all are coming to this awareness in different states. We're all in the collective. We're all part of the collective. And your experience and how we each have organized our awareness of life and what that means in us is totally okay. it has been surprising in group in the last month. I had been writing about the pool of permission that showed up one day. And it's been very interesting to see how much that comes up, that need for permission. And that's coming from the human perspective, because consciousness doesn't care. It's not attached. It's in our own formation, right? If there are no errors in where we are and how we are and who we are, if there's no blame, if we just are, then how we express is where the lightness is. And you, from a human perspective, might judge that, but as consciousness, it's not attached. It just keeps going on. And I think that's important, is losing those distinctions, which we've formed our awareness so tightly around, and just opening up and opening up and opening up. People often say, well, let go, right? And I don't think it's so often about letting go. It's about opening.
I hear what you're saying, and what you reminded me of is the what I think is the essential purpose that we're all here is to create. And as consciousness, we are creators, and we are creating our reality, we're creating our physical form, and we're creating our experiences. And so our manifestation in form is a reflection of our creativity. And I also think about whatever our tendency towards creating, whether we're musical, artistic, we like to garden, we like to cook, we like to dance, we like sports. All those things are a reflection. They're actually not a reflection. They're like our spiritual language, or our language is consciousness. And you just know how you feel when you're being creative. There's like an inner joy. So it's a using our lightness to create in the world.
I'm curious about that. Oh, well, there's the universe.
Hello. One minute. Yes. So
it's like creator first, being second, or being first, creator second, or being and creating at the same time.
So
I don't know.
There is
so sequential.
It's not. It's as you are being. Well, here's the thing: is as consciousness, you exist beyond time and space, and so from the perspective of consciousness, there is just being. Mm-hmm. If there's activity, it's more defined when you're in form. So in form, you can recognize action. I'm going to contradict myself, because all of this is full of contradictions. Consciousness creates form through focus. So that's an action. That's focusing. Right. But if you take a look at this planet, it's a game of creation and destruction. And actually, destruction is as creating as creative as created.
It is those things, but it's without attachment.
Yeah, there's no judgment. There's no attachment. You make it one day, boom, it's gone the next. It's kind of like the Greek gods had no ethics about that kind of thing.
Right. Oh, let's see what happens when we do this to them.
But we get so serious about our creativity, and that where if you're feeling serious, if you're feeling very black and white about something, that's how I notice that I'm viewing it through the lens of the physical body, the limitations of the physical body. Because to me, the qualities of consciousness is lightness and amusement, and so it's not serious. It's enjoying itself, and it's having fun.
Well, and we want to make sure that our audience is understanding that both you and I have come through our tragedies, have come through our difficulties, and that we know the world is full currently of great tragedies. And you can look anywhere globally and you'll see it. And that is nothing new. Tragedy happens. And what we're looking at is coming from that very personal place of where perhaps in the moment of trying to feed your family and where's your water, because you need water every so many hours, and food and comfort, that you this may loosen. You may lose that focus because you're into this immediacy thing. And it's about having been in those places. It's about being able to track it from the place that we find ourselves now, that we, in the greatest of grace and love, offer this awareness, because I think we have seen such a great lack of grace and love showing up. And it's not that it's not there. It is. That's why the attachments are so intense, is that it's all this stuff that we have hoarded. We're hoarders by nature, I think, to feel okay, to feel safe, because that's that body awareness that it needs that safety sense. And there's been created this split. And so it's about mending that and taking us back to integrity, immunity, integration, about how you hold yourself in this world.
There was something I was going to touch base on in what you said, and all I wrote down was bigger, because I take notes while you're talking so I can track and remember what to say at the end of it, so I keep listening. And you had said about how there's not a lot of, what was it, reflected in the world today?
Oh, love and grace.
It was the word love. It was love and grace in the world today. And love and grace are, I feel, essential qualities of consciousness. Yeah. Except that it's all consciousness, and what this planet is for is experiencing the opposite of what we essentially are. So it doesn't matter how hard we're going to strive for it to be completely different. There will always be others in the storyline. Yeah.
Well, it is the embodiment of contrast, right? That's what you described. Yeah, the embodiment of contrast, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it helps me have more compassion. I wrote about this in my last week's newsletter. It helps me have more compassion when I can view it with a bigger picture, and that yes, there's yes, we have, people who haven't had power or water for weeks, being thrown paper towels. That doesn't seem very compassionate. And from the bigger perspective, it's just all a reflection of the opposite of the essence of who we are. And our initial urge is always to return to the essence or experience the essence of who we are. And it's a lot easier than we think. It's right inside there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like I have friends who have family in Puerto Rico, and they were reporting where they weren't getting a lot of outside. What they were doing was going back to family, going back to community, and sharing of resources. So they have no electricity, so they're all putting their limited food source together and eating then, because they knew that there wouldn't be any way to keep it cold or to preserve
leftovers,
it.
right?
Electricity, right? And they had water, and they didn't have a lot of cell power, and they don't have electricity and all that, but they have each other, and that's what we all kind of need to get reduced back down to, but not from the. It's so hard to do the dance of we have to save ourselves because no one else can save us kind of thing. It's about what is really, truly important. You can die alone, or you can die with someone holding your hand and being present with you. Two different ways to have the same experience. you're going to have different reactions, results from two of those different experiences. Neither's right or wrong. They're just two different experiences and what comes as an outcome of that. And I would hope that I would always be there to offer my hand if someone wanted it, right? And I can have my agenda saying I need to be there to hold your hand, or I can lend my hand. You don't have to take my hand.
So here's the thing. You touched base on that, and I was reflecting how a couple weeks ago, was it your father's birthday, or was it his birthday?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Right.
So, and how you were there for him, and you held his hand. It was very
when he was passing over. Yeah.
Right, when he was passing over, and I was thinking my husband's mother had an amazing passing like that too. She passed in our guest room when I was back east taking care of my mother, and my husband held her, and there were two hospice nurses, and so there was a very gentle, loving, and very conscious awareness of her laboring out of the body. And she had been given up at birth and was in an orphanage and in and out of foster homes as a child, so she's never had a sense of being held that way. And so I know what I was getting. The point I was getting to with that is that we create how we come in, and we create, how we go out as consciousness. And so, what a delightful, that's a weird comment, but what a lovely way out that you provided for your father, and he created that as consciousness.
Right.
Both my parents created me to be there, and when they actually left was in a moment of being nobody in the room. Mm-hmm. But there had been so many people around keeping them alive, they kind of needed the space to exit. And I think about, in terms of in and out of body beings, is that dying is a birth, and it's birth back to spirit. And so those people around at that moment are midwives, but there's people on the other side that are there to catch. So what's that got to do with lightness in being? Well, I guess it's an acknowledgement of consciousness, lightness in being, whether there's form there or not.
Right. Well, and you can feel the differences, right? And that's what we were focusing on, is the differences in form and consciousness. And I think since we're always consciousness, the form develops around that. And so you're both more centered in and bigger than at the same time. And it's that contrast that provides our experience of what life is in this form. And maybe this will help clear any confusion or judgments or just thoughts that any of us can have about what life is, and where you want to be with that. And if there are no rights or wrongs, and we so want to hold on to that at times, there's something in feeling deeply, and whether it's love or hate or and those are the contrasts. And just feeling, for people, they feel connected to something. We were watching television the other night, and whether it was a science show about insects, and the photographer taking all the pictures of 5,000 different animals, and the great connection and emotional feeling that was being generated by that. And then the Vietnam War show and all the great feeling that was being generated by that. That's the place that moves us, right? That's the place that we pick up and go, okay, let's do this different. So that is precious. Now, we'd like to think it's all light and fluffy. And we're talking light and fluffy in not in the sense of light that we're talking about, just on the surface, dithering around kind of thing. And it's not about that. That doesn't move anybody. That's just clutter. It's just surface.
And here's, I have a different awareness. There is the emotional body. Mm-hmm. And so the emotional body is what gets stimulated by seeing the interviews with the Vietnam War and the humanity of it all. And so you can feel the difference in the emotions from the emotional body. It's a cello playing, it's a bass playing. There's right. a deeper resonance to it. Right. And consciousness is lightness and expansiveness and the emotions from consciousness. So there's like a different resonance of love. There's love with attachments, and there's, deep heart love. And then a consciousness there's a love with neutrality. There's an overarching, there's a love with expansive joy. And so there's different ends of the spectrum to recognize. And I think when I was talking about the physical body communicating with crying, body communicates with emotions, and it's part of that. The opposite of who we are is the body experiences discomfort, and how we can ease the body of discomfort is by occupying it as consciousness. Is to be fully in consciousness.
Yeah, your point was a good, many things you say are a good point. This specific one I'm focusing on is about how it is a focus. And as consciousness, everything's equal, so you have multi-focuses, right? And then you go, oh, that one. And we do it probably as consciousness, because then when we go to, oh, that one, that's the form that's relating and giving information and experiencing itself. And then you're also in the place of, oh, okay, how about, oh, over there. And you just are a constant shifting in the spectrum of where awareness is, where information is. And that's different than when you're in that form state. And it's just the immediacy. Mm-hmm. And which is interesting because it's all about time and space. So in the immediacy of being physical and holding that as the reference, we have a sense of what was, what is, and what will be. And we call it past, present, future. And so we so focused that we want to leave something for our children. Well, what about right now? Because if you're more in the now as consciousness in action, the future, we don't have to really be too concerned about. It's the now. And what are we doing now? Right? So and we reference back and forth. So it's interesting to me.
Yeah. And we were talking about action at the very beginning, and we're just about to go to break. But action in the very beginning, and the only place to really take action is in the now.
Right.
This is really juicy conversation. We have a few more things to say, but we need to stop for a commercial break. So I want to let you know that you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about consciousness and lightness in being when we come right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about consciousness and lightness in being.
Yeah. It has a very, I'm sure, I have no doubt that there are many different perspectives that we haven't hit on. Right?
Yes.
So wherever your framework is coming from, we respect it because it is part of the whole. It is part of the collective, and all viewpoints are appreciated. And what we're looking for is the place where, yes, that's the viewpoint. And is there a place where that can be a little softer, so it's not so hard and rigid in creating ambivalence, separation? Can you be holding that viewpoint from a place of connectiveness? Can you be in the lightness of being and appreciating that we all have a perspective? And if I don't judge those perspectives, I just respect them as I appreciate you respecting mine. Is there a place where we can meet, where we can share it? I think this is what we see lacking so much, like in our political arenas and things like that. Can you hear the other person? You can when you're coming from the lightness, because you appreciate that it's just one of many, and you appreciate how a person came to their place.
Well, it's a funny thing that is going on in the world today, and it's all a funny thing, really, from the perspective of consciousness.
Yeah.
But as greater light comes into the world, it illuminates the darkness. It illuminates that within us that is more rigid, not moving. And we're seeing that reflected then in people being in transient. That didn't pronounce that word right, but being very inflexible. And so we're reflecting on people being polarized and going to the opposites and wanting to go back to the way things were years ago. And it's just a reflection of that which is in the process of changing. I think the things that are showing up in the world today have come to light because they're in the process of disintegrating.
That whole concept too of going back to what was, I don't think it's valid anymore. Things evolve, things change, things shift. I appreciate the connectiveness to it, to the past, to those things that made me feel a certain way. And that's what they did, is they made me feel a certain way. And the question is, can I feel that same way through different means now? Can I fulfill what that belief, because it was probably a belief because I was pretty unknowing then, and realizing that wasn't me, that was something, and making those distinctions and making myself appreciate, or is allowing myself, making myself, however, you're organized about it, just in noticing. See, now allowing and making is that form action. In just noticing where I was then and where I am now and how I got from here and how I got to there, it is much more of a rhythmic flow.
And I would offer on top of that, you had said that it's not valid anymore, but I don't think it's ever, I don't think valid is it, but it's a natural human tendency because the past is real to the body that's lived through it. So that past is real. The future isn't real. So if you look at it, and people who are experiencing a lot of anxiety tend to be focused towards the future, and from the body's perspective, it's unknown. It's not there. It's like stepping off a cliff. People who are depressed tend to be looking towards the past because it's something they've experienced, but you can't do anything about it. You can reframe it, but you can't be back there. So I think it's normal to always want to go to the past experience, and as consciousness, you experience it as a flow. And as consciousness,
right
when you're in consciousness, your lightness in being, you're in acceptance and enjoyment of what is. And so there's none of that baggage from the past, and there's none of that anxiety for the future, because you're right in the flow and now. This feels like it's about the time to tell people how to go deeper with us and connect with us beyond the show. Should I jump into that, or?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I will.
Go right ahead if you like.
Okay. So an invitation to go deeper with us and jump in deeper with us beyond this show is go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. You can listen to all our podcasts. You can also read our blogs. Janet and I each write weekly. You can see our meetups there. Janet holds hers on Tuesday and Thursdays in her lovely home in Portland. Mine are around the Puget Sound. The ones I have coming up right now is in University Place on October 22nd. That's a Sunday afternoon from 3 to 5 at the University Place Library right next to Whole Foods on Bridgeport Way. You can also see me the following week on October 29th. I'm in Redmond teaching a consciousness masterclass to go deeper than just our conversations, and that's at the Family Pancake House in Redmond. It's $10. So those are our meetups, and then you can also learn more about our sessions. Jan and I do sessions for people around the world through Zoom and Skype and by phone. And then also, you want to tell them about Facebook and Twitter?
Oh, gosh, I don't know that I have all those addresses down.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Okay.
So what are we on Facebook, Janet? This is a quiz.
Oh, gosh, Janet Barrett and then Joan Newcomb. No, it's
yes, correct. That's correct. And what's the group? What's the group?
Oh, our Facebook is Conscious Conversations. There you go.
It's easy. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is your Twitter handle?
I think it's at Janet Beyond. Right?
And then what is the show's Twitter handle? This is a test.
Oh boy. At Conscious Conversations?
No, because we couldn't get that would have been a good one. We should grab that one too. We're at Joan and Janet.
Oh, for our Twitter for the show?
Yeah. And then my Twitter handle is at Joan Newcomb, so it's all run together. NEWCOMB, just runs together.
Well, everybody, it's not that I'm stupid or don't know. It's that I'm stupid and I don't know, because there's so many different addresses. And
there's a lot of similarities in the addresses. That's true. And Janet is beyond. So Janet doesn't need social media because she's in the beyond where everybody is all communicating instantaneously and simultaneously.
Right.
Let me see. I think the last thing we didn't mention is YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm on YouTube. I'm Joan Newcomb, but you can also find the individual episodes on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can find my Mystic Minutes, where I talk about different things about navigating life as consciousness.
Yeah, and about the only thing, I do is my consciousness cookies for the day.
Yes.
I do post those on Twitter, and those do go on Facebook and LinkedIn, and the writings. I'm not one to partake in computers just because the energy dynamics at play there with my body. So that's its own thing. But I appreciate everyone, especially LinkedIn lately. People have really been tracking me down that way, and I appreciate that so very much. So.
And I have coaching programs for individuals and groups, and you can find out more about those at joan-newcomb.com. This has been a lovely show today. We have been having a wonderful time with you, and we so appreciate you creating with us in the space of now, regardless of when you're actually listening to us. You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. It's been great.
Tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.